Welcome to Inspiration Inc. We have a very special guest with us today who has been on both the sides of the fence, philanthropy also and the corporate world also. And the best part is he has been an achiever on both the sides. We have Vineet Nayar with us. Sir, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
And congratulations, because Sampark Foundation is doing really good job and it's getting a lot of recognition, a lot of achievement. So first of all, congratulations for that.
Thank you.
But like the name goes, the Inspiration Inc. is all about inspiring story and journey. So I'll start with Sampark, because that's what currently is on top of your mind also. Now, India needs initiatives like this, but what I have seen is not many corporate leaders actively get involved in something like this. So, was this always the plan that once you quit active corporate life, this is what you will get into?
I think it was always the plan. And there were two triggers for that to happen in 2013. The first trigger was the fact that we had cut a lot of checks to a lot of NGOs on the ground who were working in the field of education, water, healthcare, and agriculture. And our assessment of the 7 years we have been funding, we started funding in 2005.
Right.
And by the time we reached 2012, it was clear that the impact was not being created. That was the first eureka moment in terms of we were seeing that close. The second happened in 2012. This coincided with my book doing very well. New York Times wrote an article on me, all this stuff. So I was on high. I call that the private jet, the French restaurant high, right? Traveling on private jets and eating in French restaurants. And I happened to visit Punjab, one of the schools we were sponsoring. And I asked the question of how many of you had lunch before meeting, and that was about noon, and nobody raised their hand. Oh. And that is the time me and my wife decided that sponsoring and cutting checks is not going to do it. We have to give our time and attention to it. And that is the time also Bill Gates was setting the agenda of quitting a corporate life and contributing all his wealth, or most of his wealth and his time along with his wife. And that was an inspiration for us in saying we should roll up our sleeves. God has given us enough. The country has given us enough. Now is the time when we have the energy to spend the next 20 years to try and see if we can solve a major problem for the country, which is the rural education problem. Right. That was the inspiration why I quit my corporate life and dedicated all my time to Sampark Foundation and substantial amount of my wealth.
Right. But also what I have seen is, even within Sampark Foundation and even within rural education program, you are doing a lot of innovation. And while there is an effort which is being made by the government agencies and, creating enough network in terms of internet connectivity and all those things, but you have also done innovation in how you enable teacher, how you enable student to learn. So, how does this happen, and where this thought came from of innovation within rural education?
I think the important aspect for us is because it is largely my money, my wife's money. We ask ourselves a fundamental question: why do we exist in Sampark Foundation?
Correct.
We don't exist for media glare. We exist to try and see if we can make a change at the ground. Then we ask the second question in terms of what exactly is the problem. And why the problem, which is 15 crore children, grade 5 children cannot read grade 2 text, 82% of them, and cannot do simple math sums, despite doubling of investment by the government in education over the last decade. Why does this problem exist? And our solution was that the problem exists because in the classroom transaction, which is the transaction between the teacher and the child, there is no innovation. And in lack of innovation, everybody is beating down the teacher, everybody is, giving her more and more work, but nobody is giving her the tools to try and innovate. Right. So the question we asked is, if we could innovate and ignite the classroom transaction between the child and the teacher, could we change the learning outcomes? So a combination of this, we went and partnered with 6 state governments and took over all the schools in those states. We went to Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, Himachal, and Uttarakhand, and said that can we transform learning outcome from class 1 to 5.
Right.
So we have 76,000 schools in our program, 7 million children in our program. Remember, I told you 8 out of 10 couldn't read simple text, and 6 out of 10 couldn't do simple math sums. We have recently, feedback consulting did a learning outcome assessment. Our grade 3 children, 87% of them can do division and multiplication and construct simple English sentences. So there is a significant change in learning outcomes in class 1 to 5. And I think that's very satisfying, that's very inspiring. But the crux of all this comes down to the question you are asking. The attempt of doing good is not good enough unless there is a spark of an innovative idea.
Right.
Because if a problem has not been solved for decades, you can't solve it just by wishing you wish to solve it.
Do you think enough is being done? And the reason I'm asking this is because of the sheer size of population and the spread of the country. And I'm quite impressed with the numbers that you just mentioned, 76,000 schools, 7 million students. What is your vision at some point? Would you like to have a pan-India kind of footprint, maybe tie up with more governments? How is their response? Are they quick enough to adapt something like this?
So actually, I have a reverse problem. The number of governments who want this program to be implemented is far more than my capacity to execute.
Right.
So therefore, we have 6 more state governments who are, the MOU is with us. It's signed by them, not signed by us. And they want a very aggressive rollout in the state. Even you take a state of Uttar Pradesh. There are 130,000 schools in Uttar Pradesh. And as far as Uttar Pradesh government is concerned, they would want it to be rolled out next year. The size and scale is very large. The demand is very large because the results are for everybody to see. But we are resource constrained. Resource constrained not from a monetary point of view. The only way this problem will succeed is not just product innovation, but also execution innovation. So you need a lot of people who are willing to stay in villages and inspire the teachers to change the way they are teaching. So it needs a large pool of people inspired to work in those tough conditions, and therefore it creates creation of an organization structure, organization ethos, purpose, hire the right kind of people and do the right kind of thing, which cannot happen suddenly. So we are almost doubling every 2 years, and we will double. We'll get to 20 million children in 2 lakh schools in the next 3 years.
True.
And therefore, on one side it is scale, but on the other side, I am fundamentally asking, me and my wife are fundamentally asking a question whether numeracy and literacy skill improvement is sufficient condition to get higher employment. And our answer is no. And therefore, we are launching a new program called Beyond School. This is an entrepreneurship leadership program in primary schools, using tinkering, using percussion, using theater. We are going to teach people how to be a more entrepreneur plumber, how to be more entrepreneur electrician, how to be a more entrepreneur farmer.
You already mentioned it, but running a large corporation like HCL, doing so much of innovation there, and creating verticals which were obviously worth more than $1 billion. Does that help? Does that come into play when you plan something like this?
I think so. I think I had 2 stints. One as a startup when I started ComNet, which was a beautiful stint and has created almost 15, 20 CEOs in the IT industry. And another was transformation of HCL Technologies. And I think both those experiences have taught me a lot. So in Sampark Foundation, the innovation and how to innovate is coming from my experiences in ComNet, where we created remote infrastructure management, and how to run organizations, how to inspire people, how to bring about a change in the thinking of the government, how to work with 2 lakh teachers and inspire them to behave in a different fashion than the way they were behaving last year is all thanks to my learning in HCL Technologies.
Right.
I truly believe that whole sense of purpose, sense of measurement, sense of urgency, sense of big thinking, all that is thanks to my experience in HCL. If I had not gone there, then I think I would have approached this in a smaller way, felt happy impacting a couple of thousand children. But the bigger, bolder aspirations and vision is coming thanks to the fact that I've spent significant time in corporate life.
Now when you reflect, and And the reason I'm asking this question is because often when you speak to, let's say, the current generation or the youth, you get an answer which is slightly confusing. Sometimes they sound very ambitious, sometimes they sound very visionary, sometimes they sound very aggressive. If we take your case, when you were studying actually, was there a design in your mind that, I mean, a rough design that, okay, this is what you want to do, this is how you want to approach your career, or it just happened? I mean,
I think it was all serendipity. I still remember because I lost my father pretty early in life. We were three brothers, so we, as a family, we were very united and we were very supportive of each other. So today and tomorrow was more important than day after tomorrow, and
Right.
we were very focused on it. At XLRI, when HCL came as in the company, it was a $4 million, $5 million company, and on the one side was levers, on the other side was HCL. I got attracted with the challenge which HCL presented in terms of the fact that it's a small company in a growing technology. So I took that choice.
Didn't you feel like swinging to HUL because it's
I
more
know.
robust and
I
solid?
did because that was the first time they flew me. So I had never flown on an aircraft. So they did. They flew us to Bombay, and all that was very good. And the more I heard about HUL talking about how great they were, I constantly kept on asking myself, so what is my role in it? So my philosophy in life has always been to search for companies which need plumbing.
Correct.
Because I'm a plumber. And that is what attracted me to HCL. That is what pushed me to quit HCL and start ComNet, because I thought there's something new could be done. And that is what inspired me to try and work with Shiv to try and turn around HCL Technologies. I think all those were not thought out steps, but they were steps which faced me at that particular time, looked obvious, and I had the desire and the guts to be able to jump when the time was to jump.
But following your gut feeling actually helps.
I think it's very important because you cannot create opportunities. I think, but when the opportunities come, you have to look at it the face and then jump for it.
So what would be the biggest key to success, if you were to attribute one single thing which was biggest key to achieve your vision, what would that be?
So I think it comes down to two stories which were very path changing for me. First is when I was 6 years old, we were playing cricket in Nagpur.
Okay.
And my friend hit a shot, broke my neighbor's window. All my friends ran away. I was the only guy standing in front of my neighbor's door because I wanted my ball back. He caught hold of me, he took me inside, he tied me to a chair and said, now, this is the punishment. And all my friends were laughing and I was crying. So I went down, picked a brick, broke his another glass, knocked on his door and said, the first one I had not broken. The second one I have broken, but you have already given me the punishment. Now that was wrong. But I think that was my biggest lesson. From that day onwards, irrespective of what happens, and many things have happened in my life, I've always focused on, okay, so what am I going to do about it? What has happened, what am I going to do about it? The second was also when I was about 9 years old. We were moving from Nagpur to Pantnagar, which is in the foothills of Himalayas. And the train, we were traveling on a train, and we reached at Ratlam station. We were on the third class compartment. Very hot. My parents were sleeping. I got out of the train and was enjoying the scene of the station when the train started moving. I decided that I can run and catch the train, and therefore allowed the train to move a little further. And then when I started running behind the train to try and catch it, I fell because I didn't have the strength in my arms to pull myself up on a running train. Fear. I ran again, tried to catch it, doubt. Ran again and tried to catch it, panic. Okay. And then from nowhere, there is this vegetable lady who was selling kakris, came, ran, caught me by the knickers and threw me in the guard compartment. Oh. That was my second lesson in life, that if you are not chasing impossible train, how can anybody throw you on the trains you don't belong? True. So I think these two mantras in my life have been the cornerstone of my philosophy. It is not the what of the philosophy, it is not the what of the job, or how much money, how much order, how much recognition. It is the question is it big enough? Are you chasing an impossible train? And the question is, when you fall, the question is, what are you going to do about it?
Right.
That has formed the core of my thinking, irrespective of what I do.
It has stayed with you since
Yeah,
then.
stayed with
And it has delivered also. Any decision which now in hindsight, if you look at it, you think maybe I should have done this differently, or maybe I could have done it better. I mean, I'm sure there are many, but any one or two which come to your mind?
I think there are many. When I got my first job in HCL, I behaved like an idiot, because of which they sacked me. I was sacked, I think, on the 45th or 47th day and asked to go. I could have done that differently. I think there are, same is true with ComNet. When we raised money with JP Morgan, the speed at which we spent the money, because we had never seen so much money before, I think I could have done it differently. I think I could have globalized ComNet. ComNet ended up being $2 billion, but I could have focused on globalization of ComNet a little early. So I think there are many instances. I would say that I have made my share of mistakes, or more than my share of mistakes, but I listen. So there was this incident where we had this trouble ticketing software we opened, where every employee could open a trouble ticket, part of the employee first, customer second, and therefore they can open a ticket on the company, and the company will resolve the ticket in a certain period of time. And I was very happy when thousands of tickets were resolved in a limited period of time. I called all these accounts and administration and IT guys together and HR guys together and was celebrating. And then one girl stood up and saying, "Vineet, you're a fool." And I said, "I have heard that because I have teenagers at home, but tell me your reason you're calling me a fool." And she says, "How many CEOs celebrate with the same set of people who created all the problem in the first instance?" Now, she was absolutely right. And this 26-year-old girl changed my view on a solution implementation. So instead of incentivizing them at the speed at which they solve a problem, I started incentivizing them the fact that the problem should not exist in the first instance.
Correct. Employee first, customer second as a philosophy. I mean, again, it sounds very innovative, and I'm because the book is so well received, I've also read it. But typically an idea like this has potential to run into a wall, because not many people would be receptive to something like this. So when you implemented this policy, or I would say this philosophy in HCL, what was your experience? Because it's all about, typically an IT company will always be about customer experience, this, that.
I think you have to remember a couple of things. First is that at HCL in 2005, we were losing mind share, market share, talent share, and we had to do something to transform HCL. Transform means change the form of HCL permanently. At that time, the 3 Ps of Porter was very prevalent: price, product, proposition. But I did not see any innovation in price, product, and proposition for an IT services company to be able to transform. And therefore, we started looking for alternate ideas. And there is where we saw the Japanese car makers not manufacture cars with 5 wheels, but manufacture them in a different methodology, Kaizen. And therefore, we came to the conclusion that actually, if you transform the culture of the organization, if you make the management accountable to the employees, if you increase the energy level of the organization, and if you make the employee responsible for growth and the management responsible to the employee, if you invert the organization pyramid, the cultural transformation will drive growth. And that was the assumption we made. So employee first, customer second is the mantra for the management, but for the employees, it was the growth. Now, fortunately for HCL, Shiv is a majority shareholder, a visionary par excellence, a man whose mind works sharper than anybody I have seen. He's my mentor, my guru. And when I took this idea to him, he loved it. He loved it because he likes to take risks. He also loved it because there was a logic of the fact that it could potentially transform HCL. So once I got his approval as a chairman, and he helped me get the board approval, I had the mandate to take the risk.
Right.
Then the question is, how do I get my managers to buy in? So through collaboration, we created a buy-in from 150 people that it is worth trying. Once we got the buy-in from 150 people, that was the time to go to all the employees. And there is where you have to do something big. This is my big learning in life. If you want something badly, you have to show it. So I said, okay, my appraisal will be done by all employees. Remember, we had 35,000 employees,
Correct.
and by the time we ended, it was 1 lakh employees. My appraisal will be done by 35,000 employees confidentially, digitally, and the results will be published on the web for all to see. And if the rating goes down below a certain level, I lose my job. Now, that big idea of trusting my employees and transferring the ownership of my appraisal in their hands changed everything. So I think getting the board to sign on, getting the management team to get excited about it, then getting the employees to believe that this is not a marketing slogan, but something I personally are willing to risk my continuity. I think a combination of those three things created the magic which happened in HCL, and HCL transformation journey continues.
Right. Who's your biggest inspiration in life? Person, book, whatever?
I think my mother. Because my father unfortunately expired very early in life. My mother was my biggest critique. She would see me on television and tell me, that this is not the way you answer those questions. She was my biggest inspiration. She is the one who founded Sampark Foundation.
Right.
I have learned a lot from her. The second inspiration continues to be my wife. She is very diametrically opposite to who I am, and therefore she centers me. And third, professionally, I think Shiv has been a fantastic friend, a very, very close friend, a mentor and a guide. So I think I've been inspired by these three set of people. And then I read a lot of books.
Right.
And I take ideas from books. I get inspired by people I meet. And therefore, I consider myself as a sponge. I'm always trying to suck ideas and inspiration and motivation with whoever I meet.
That's true. Is there one wish or desire which remains unfulfilled? It could be anything. It could be even about your philanthropy activity or something. Which drives you now?
Before I came to Sampark Foundation, I did not have the realization of the extent of misery India has. It is heartbreaking. I somehow feel that my colleagues in the corporate world who have the intellect, not the money, there is unlimited money, who have the intellect need to understand this misery, need to feel this misery by going into the middle India, the Jharkhand, the Chhattisgarh, the Bihar, and to see the villages and come up with innovative ideas to solve this. So my frustration in life is that we need more of me to give up whatever they are giving, because whatever they have earned, they will not be able to spend in this lifetime.
Right.
And their kids will do well, and they don't need their wealth. So if more and more people can take on healthcare, hygiene problems, village problems, water sanitation problems, because irrespective of irrespective of the good the government is doing, the innovation quotient in government schemes varies quite significantly. From a great bureaucrat, he'll come up with a great idea, to an average bureaucrat will be an average idea. I think corporate India has great innovators and great thinkers. So if they can lend their mind to design thinking and systematically over a multi-year program try and resolve some of the big issues we have, not in philanthropic form, but roll up their sleeves and be the CEO of that organization, that is an aspiration I hope I can see happen by 2025.
What is the response when you give them this suggestion?
I told you, I'm an optimist.
Right.
And my friends have no choice. They will have to
sort of get into
to get into it. It's just the fact that I will keep repeating this. I know if they travel into middle India for 3 or 4 days and do not have a place to have a chai or a lunch or a dinner and have to survive only on breakfast and Maggi noodles, they will understand that this country needs them. And that is what this country desperately needs them.
Absolutely. I think what you are trying to do is very inspirational, and I'm happy we had this conversation, and I hope people who are watching this show, some of them will also get inspired. Thank you so much, Vineet, and all the best
Thank you
for your mission.
Thank you.